This is the Horse Radio Network.
This is episode 383 of the Dressage Radio Show on the Horse Radio Network, brought to you by Kentucky Performance Products and Total Saddle Fit. Today we have a great nutrition tip from Kentucky Performance Products. Reese met a listener at her regional finals that we're going to talk to, and Justin from Total Saddle Fit will be with us to talk about some great products.
This is Reese Koffler-Stanfield from Georgetown, Kentucky.
This is Philip Parks from Rockwood, Ontario, and you're listening to the Dressage Radio Show.
Well, tonight we are super excited. Glenn got to stop by. How are you, Glenn?
Good. Congratulations, Reese. I saw your big news. You know what I felt like? I felt like a proud papa, and I'm not even your papa.
Oh, well, you guys have been around, and it's been super fun to develop this young horse. And, you know, when things go well and it happens, and he just kind of grew up. I don't know what to tell you. It's just when we got... Hello. I know. He was so cute. He just had some swagger he's never had before. He was like, I got this. I know what I'm here to do. And I was like, yes, I don't know where this came from, but thank you. At the right moment in history, this is here. So it was a good weekend, and I'm really looking forward to the Nationals. So,
I bet you are. I bet you are.
Yep.
So I want to congratulate. I won't take up much of your time. I want to congratulate you both and thank you so much for everything you've done for the Horse Radio Network. And now you'll be leaving. And no, I'm just kidding. The listeners just had a heart attack.
I just had a heart attack.
We are hitting. By the time this show comes out, will have hit our 5,000th episode on the Horse Radio Network. And there are probably 6 or 8 maybe podcast networks in the world that have ever hit 5,000 episodes. And we did that without missing an episode on any of the shows, which is unheard of. And the Horse Radio Network is very well respected in the podcast world. They strive to be like us. And I just wanted you guys are a big part of that for the last 4 years almost. And I just appreciate you so much. And thanks to all the sponsors and the listeners and Kentucky Performance Products and all the sponsors, Total Saddle Fit, Dr. Roses, everybody that sponsors on all of our shows for being there, and our listeners and auditors. We have the best listeners and auditors in the industry, and other podcasters are jealous of them too. So we just appreciate you all so much.
High five. Congratulations to you and Jen. You guys, yeah. It's unbelievable. You guys had quite the vision to make this network happen. It's awesome. And Phil and I are super excited to be a part of it. And
we just do the small part. We don't have to do all the behind the scenes.
Yeah, exactly.
Thank God for my wife, Jennifer, who's on here too.
Yay!
That without her, this would not have happened either. She has put in endless hours and had to tolerate me. So she's got double whammy there.
I'm Jen.
Reese knows what that's like. So
that's awesome, guys. That's so cool. Congratulations.
Well, yeah, it's been a fun journey from, jumping on a few years ago to, continuing to keep making episodes and meeting our sponsors and meeting our wonderful listeners, and just growing the Dressage Radio Show family, growing the Horse Radio Network family. It's been really great. It's been an awesome experience.
You know how I know you guys have succeeded? Because I can't tell you how many people have told me that they don't ride dressage, but they listen to this show anyway. And you probably couldn't say that for people watching dressage shows. So the fact that they're listening to you guys, even though they don't ride dressage, says a lot about what you do on your show. It really does. And you know what? What we want you to do, it's also International Podcast Day on Friday the 30th. We want all of your listeners to go out and tell all of their dressage friends or just their horsey friends, all of their horsey friends at the barn, any at work, anybody you see this weekend that's horsey, tell them about the Horse Radio Network, tell them about the Dressage Radio Show. Don't tell them it's a podcast. We're finding that is a problem. People are going, well, I don't know what podcasts are. I'm not going to list this too hard.
Yeah, I think just the education on what, podcasts, there's a lot of really good podcasts out there. ours, of course, right? But I mean, there's a lot of great stuff for people to consume. But I mean, it's not too much trouble. The technology is in your hand most of the time. So
And I think that's what you have to kind of explain to them, is that this is easy. It's just on
it's
demand.
so easy.
Yeah, you listen when you want to on your phone or at the computer at home or at work. And the other thing is encourage them to download the free Horse Radio Network app, iOS or Android. Just go to the App Store, search for Horse Radio Network. It's so simple to listen to the shows there. Anybody can do that.
Yeah, if I can do it, everybody can do it. Let's be real here.
And I think, if you have an iPhone, there's a podcast app on it. All you do is go on it and search Dressage Radio, and it comes up. And it's downloaded automatically to your phone when they come out. So it just can't get any. It's easier than finding a radio station on your car.
Yeah. And
which is hard in our area.
Most of the time, anyways, right?
And we would love it to spread the word that we're out. We're here every week, and we really do. And we love our listeners, and we love feedback. We want to. If there's anything you guys would like to hear, we like to have it on. And if you have the question, so does someone else. I'm sure of it. So we like to have it on and do it for you. So
if all of you went out and told 2 people, we'd triple the size of this audience.
That would be awesome. We'd break the internet again, Glenn.
That's right. We'd have to get another new server. And by the way, I will be happy to pay for that. So, so let's get it done. Let's get her done.
Awesome. Well, here's to
thanks,
another
guys.
5,000. Congratulations, guys.
Well, Reese, we heard a little snippet about your regionals. How did it all go? Everything overall? I know Hello was awesome, but the show was good. The weather was good.
It was actually, the weather was good. We had a little rocky start getting there. I had 2, not 1, 2 tire blowouts. That was a little stressful. So we got there a little late on Wednesday, but everybody was
on your
fine.
Trailer or the truck?
On my trailer. So
same side?
Different sides. So now I currently have a spare of my spare because, of course, problem was we had our blowout. I heard the first blowout was pretty. I heard it. I heard a pop, and I was like, something was weird. What was that noise? And I pulled over, and my tire did have a bubble in it. So we put the spare on. Well, then I didn't have a spare. And thankfully, we found a tire place. They didn't have a tire there. Somebody had to go get a tire from the other warehouse. So 45 minutes later, they came back. But now I have a spare of the spare. So I have, because the problem is, if you have trailer tires, a lot of times the tire shops don't carry that size.
Right.
Just a PSA for everybody. So, now this tire doesn't have a rim on it. Somebody would have to put a rim, but any tire shop should be able to do that. So I have to get my trailer looked at. That was annoying, but Hello was great. He ended up being reserve on the 4th level freestyle. And I had some bobbles. I'm not going to lie. One of the bobbles was my own mistake. You know how we always talk about riding half alts in the corner? I should probably have listened to myself. I had a break in the extended trot to the canter. And it was my fault. It was my fault. I should have waited. I was a little bit behind my music and chasing it a little bit, and should have ridden a better half alt. And then I had a bobble in the pirouette. But he was still very, very good. Got over 70%, so couldn't be fussy with him. And then he actually won a very big class of the Open Pre St. George. So I was really proud of him. That was almost a 70% in that class. That was the highest score he's had all year, and so it was pretty cool. He
got to peak at the right time.
He did, and so now we'll talk to Amy, our listener, here later in the show, but. That's always now the issue. What do you do kind of leading up to a championship? And I'm not going to lie, we kind of changed the strategy a little bit. I was planning on doing an I-1 at the end of the month just to kind of see how he would do. And we decided not to do that because of the finals and just to really focus on the Pre St. George and the balance that we really need for that. So that's the plan.
Get your freestyle better.
And get my freestyle. That
no bobbles.
No bobbles. That freestyle, it is a really good freestyle. So, and I found out, poor guy, he actually, what's really going to change my training is when I entered the horse show, both my championship rides are on the same day. That's tough. That's basically 2 Pre St. George's on the same day. So he is going to I'm going to have to do a couple 2-a-days. Like I'm going to have to a little bit adjust the training more for him just to know he can be ridden twice a day. And that's a lot to ask
Build
of
the stamina a little bit.
Yep. So I have to kind of reorg my training a little bit, just due to the fact that he's got to go twice in one day, which I'm not happy about, but there's not much. I tried to do what I could do, and is what it is. But I'm lucky I don't have to travel, so I hope no one else has that same issue. But anyways, it is what it is. Then the horse park's only about 10 minutes from my house, so he doesn't have to travel far. So that's nice, and I can
He'll be
bring him.
fine.
Yeah, he'll be all
fine.
right. So that was it, and then I took another horse, Marcus, owned by Pam and Will McKee, and he was great. It was a very I love that there were a lot of people at this regionals, but there were a lot of people and horses. It was a really tight venue. I was at Lamplight, which is a beautiful facility, but tight. It was very, very tight, and a lot of horses, and pretty much everybody played nicely in the sandbox together. And overall, it was a really, really good thing. So it was a lot of fun, and glad to be home, safe and sound, and met some great people and had a really good time. Shout out to my sister, Lindsay, who came to coach me, which was great. So it's been really fun. So, yeah.
And now you're off on the next adventure.
I am.
We're doing the show, and then you're out again.
Yeah, I'm out again. I am off to Germany tomorrow, actually, and have some fun horse shopping stories. I'm looking for 3 horses over there this trip, so it's going to be a really busy time in the next week or so. So, and I planned that, actually, as we all know, with horses, you have to plan when you're away for the horses. So I'm going to be away, and Hello will get a little downtime. He'll be ridden, but not super hard. So it's all good. So
very good. Well, safe travels and good luck.
Thank you very much. And next week, I think there's going to be a best of show, and Phil and I will be back in 2 weeks. So looking forward to that. Well, Phil, as you know, this is the year of the listener, and I met a really fun listener, Amy, at our regional finals. I hope you enjoy your interview. Well, for our next listener, we actually have a very funny story. Amy Beisner and I were standing at the Region 2 finals in the awards area, and I was just chatting with my sister, and Amy gave me this look of, how do I know you? And I said, I'm Reese from the Horse Radio Network. And Amy Beisner was so cute. She was so excited, and she is an avid listener to the show. So, Amy, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you.
We are so happy to have you. And to celebrate the year of the listener, I said, Amy, will you come on the show? And her husband piped up before she could even say no and said she'd love to. So here we are.
Well, he knows me.
It was so cute. So, Amy, again, start us off. How did you start riding, and what got you to the point where you and Miss Reveille were third level reserve champion for the adult amateur? How did that all happen?
Well, let's see. I've been riding since maybe the early 90s, and I've always been in the Chicagoland area. And so I've kind of aimed for dressage early on. My mom enjoyed it, so I followed suit. So I've been kind of struggling as an amateur for a long time, taking lessons here and there as I could afford. And as I got older, I was able to afford more and get some more lessons. And I bought Ellie, which is Reveille, and she's 12 now, but I bought her as a 4-year-old. And we've been kind of struggling slowly along. And, it's been a slow climb, but she's doing fantastic, and she works so hard. And she's such a good mare. She really every time comes and does her job. So it makes it easier when a horse is like that, when you don't have to push them so hard. She really does come to it with her workmanship like attitude, and it's nice.
A good work ethic goes a long way, doesn't it?
It really does. It makes up for a few of our small flaws.
No, and so Amy, how did you find her? You said you bought her as a 4-year-old. So how did you do that? How did you find her?
I think it was kind of through the grapevine. She is by a local stallion, so she's an Indian art baby, and who is an Art Deco baby. So he was a stallion that is in our area, and somehow I found out that he had a couple of horses for sale by that stallion. And I went and took a look at her when she was 4. She was broke. She was under saddle for 30 days or something like that when I bought her. But her face, it was all her face. Her face sold it.
Oh, I love it. I love it. So what was kind of your progression this year for getting to the regionals? I mean, how did you kind of start this year's journey?
This year I really did focus on third level. I've been playing around with some of the fourth level movements, and we did second level, and we did do some third level classes last year. But this year I really wanted to focus just on third level and really try to gain strength in the movements in third level. So we started off the year kind of, doing all right, kind of tough. The finish was fantastic. I mean, I'm just over the moon about it. She was so rock solid. And I guess it's all about getting out into that arena. The more you're in the arena, the more often it feels so much more natural. So getting out into the arena, the show arenas really does help a lot.
And
tell us a little bit about how, sorry, I was just going to say, ask her to tell us a little bit how you develop the strength for the third level, because I think that's a very important component for a lot of people thinking that they're going to move up to third level next year if they're showing second level. And what do you think the key was to be successful in third?
Well, for sure the changes. And for sure the changing has got to be kind of clean. And what I noticed about being an amateur and working with your own horse, teaching and learning the changes kind of at the same time, is that it definitely takes a lot longer. You're going to go through various things. Your timing just isn't that good. Your horse can get a little bit more upset about it. So it takes more time to develop the timing yourself, and then for your horse to really acclimate to the aids. My horse, for sure, last year was, kicking out at the aids often, especially in the show arena. But we kept working it slowly, and it was a matter of bringing it in daily. So it became part of our daily workout. A few changes here and there, and that helped a lot. And just the strength overall, I think a lot of the bend has got to be good. I'm still working on bending, really solid, good bend. And I think that builds strength. Generally, her strength has got to come along with each activity. She's just got to keep,
it's tricky.
Keep going.
It's hard.
And it is hard. And she also, since we started playing with some of the fourth level stuff, it has also helped us with the strength for third level. So,
yes. And it's tough. Strength is one of those things that sometimes I just tell people, you just got to keep doing it. It's sort of like, coming back from an injury or whatever, one day you're like, oh, I can pedal the bike a little harder today, or I can do a few more squats. I'm just able to do it. It's just from the work that you've been doing. And so I think this is the same with movements. As you work on a little bit to maybe something in the fourth level, it's a little more challenging, or as you do more transitions, at some point it will happen. It just, sometimes it's hard to know when it's going to happen. So I think that's and third level is a no joke level. I mean, it's where things start to get really, really challenging, and the horses really have to pay attention and be on your aids. So that makes complete sense. So now what's the plan? Are you guys coming to Kentucky?
Yes, we are. We're gonna. And that's another thing my husband forced me to do.
Yes, you're great. He's awesome.
Yeah. I'm lucky to have him
He
supporting
sounds
me.
like a good motivator.
Yes,
Yeah,
exactly. That's
yes.
fantastic. Well, I always believe in horses when it's going well, go for it because there's a lot of times you don't make it. So and you want to. So I'm always a fan of that. So what's
Just
your
do it.
plan? Yeah, it's like about a month and a half to reach nationals here in Kentucky. So what's your plan?
And I've just started thinking about that. Um, I'm not, I'm kind of on the fence of how I want to deal with this. Like, um, do I want to focus more on some of the fourth level work? I mean, there are certain things that I really need to, like the pirouette canter. Yeah, that's going to make us stronger, it should help everything else. Do I focus on that, or do I try to clean up, some of the just strictly bending stuff? I don't know. I'm still sort of torn.
Sure, and just for our listeners, regionals just happened, so I think we're all trying to still recover from the weekend. But no, that is always the question. Going to the next finals. What do you where do you want to focus on? And in a month and a half is a long time, but it's not a long time. When
Yeah,
you
that goes
look
really
at going
fast.
forward. It really does. It'll be here before we all know it. And that is always the question. And that's where it's always nice to have your trainer to bounce it off of, and you probably can't make a wrong decision, but it is always the challenge of going to a championship. But it's going to be really fun here in Kentucky, and I'm looking forward. I hope I run into you again for sure. And Amy, we wish you and Miss Beverly all the luck, and I can't wait to see you guys here in Kentucky.
Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for coming on the show. We love our listeners, and please, if everybody else out there has a good story, or you see Phil and I at a horse show, grab us, and we will probably ask you to come on as well. Well, tonight we have the Kentucky Performance Products Tip of the Month with KPP, Kentucky Performance Products President Karen Isberg. Karen, welcome to the show.
Hi, Reese.
Well,
Hi, Philip. Nice to be here.
We are so happy to have
Awesome.
you.
We're happy to have you on.
Well, Karen is fantastic. She is who we work with at Maple Crest Farm with our supplements, and she is a genius. So I'm so happy that she's here to talk to us today. We're going to talk about this month feeding supplemental fat to meet your horse's energy requirements. So, Karen, that is already so I'm like, oh my gosh, what are we talking about? I love it. So, can you get us started?
Okay. Well, nowadays we face a lot of issues with our horses. We've learned that if we feed them too much starch and sugar, so too much grains, that it causes a lot of trouble in the hind gut, and it leads to situations like ulcers and colic, and also insulin resistance. So from that, we've learned that we need to come up with a different source of energy, and that source of energy has turned out to be fat. And actually, fats are kind of found all over the place. Did you know, Reese, that your pasture is anywhere from 2.7 to 4.8% fat?
No, really?
Yeah, so when your horse is out eating grass, he's actually eating fat.
Oh.
And
Well,
one of the reasons why horses look so nice after they've been grazing out on grass for a while is because, they're eating quite a bit of grass. So they're actually getting quite a bit of fat.
Interesting.
Kind of puts that pretty bloom on their coat.
And Karen, would that kind of depend on what, I mean, in Lexington, that's fantastic. We have great grass, but what about different, if you're out west or you're in different areas of the country?
Well, sure. I mean, and that would be that's why I gave you the range. It's anywhere from 2% to 5% fat, depending on your grass. So, I mean, if you're out in Utah and you're grazing out in the desert, you're obviously not going to get that kind of fat in your grass. But if you're in an area where there's a decent pasture grass growing, then you are going to get some fat in your grass. But a lot of people don't realize
is that like
there
vegetable oil fat? Is that oils that are contained within the plant?
Exactly. Mm-hmm. Yep.
That makes sense.
That's what it would be. And then, so there's also some fat in your grass hay. If you feed your horse hay, it can be anywhere from as low as 1.5 to as high as 3% fat, depending on the grass hay. So your horse is always getting a little bit of fat in his diet anyway. So it's something that they are they would naturally be digesting. So it's something that they can digest. A lot of people associate fat mainly with, kind of animal byproducts and things.
Animal fats,
and they would
yeah.
think, well, yeah, I mean, a horse isn't ever eating fat. A horse doesn't eat fat. But that's not true. They do eat fat. They just eat vegetable sources of fat versus animal sources of fat. And of course, we all know the vegetable sources tend to be a little bit healthier for you.
Excellent. So let's say, because here in Florida, obviously our horses, I mean, they go out for like half an hour. At home, they're out all day. So talk to us about how that changes. I mean, now we have a big change in the horse's diet. So how would we, kind of bring the fat back in, or, if we needed to have horses gain some weight?
Yeah, absolutely. So what you're looking at then, or oftentimes even if your horse is out on pasture, if you start working them harder, then, they need more calories, just like a person does. If you work harder, if you run hard, you need more calories in your diet. And your hays and your typical concentrates that are high in starches and sugars, you can only feed so much of that. A horse has a limited ability to digest starch and sugar. And once you hit that limit, the starches and sugars are just passed through their stomach into the hind gut. And when they get into the hind gut, the bugs that are back there, they love that starch and sugar, but it causes them to produce a lot of lactic acid, and it changes the pH balance in the hind gut. And that's where you get laminitis and you get colic when horses are eating too much starch and sugar in their grain. So if you've got a horse where you're feeding them the max grain that you can, starchy, sugary grains, and you're feeding them all the hay that you can, and you're still not meeting their energy requirements, then you can add fat into the diet. Or if you have a horse that's very sensitive to starch and sugar, you can replace those kinds of feeds with fat, and you can meet the energy requirements that they have.
So tell us a little bit about sources of fat, because I know the old method is just to get some corn oil and dump it in the grain. But I think there's only so much you can add to the grain that way. What are different ways to add fats?
Right, and corn oil too. That was an older fashioned way of adding fat, and we've learned that the omega-3 fatty acids are important, and corn oil is very high in omega-6 fatty acids, which are pro-inflammatory. So if you were adding oils, you would want to add, you would want to add a flaxseed oil or a fish oil that is higher in omega-3s. But again, you can only get a horse to eat so much oil. One ingredient that we have found is really good for horses as far as a fat ingredient is rice bran.
Oh.
Okay.
And rice bran it's readily available. You can find it, a lot of places. Our particular product is called Equijewel. When you're feeding rice bran, you want to make sure that it's stabilized, because as with any fat, it can go rancid if it's not treated. Equijewel is heat stabilized, and that stops it from going rancid. And it's a natural process. So it's a natural product with a natural process of stabilization. Some rice bran products will be stabilized with chemicals instead. So that's something to look at.
How would you know that, Karen? I'm sorry, jumping right in.
You would have to ask the manufacturer how they stabilize their rice bran.
Okay.
Or look for, we have heat stabilized on our bag, so that it's easy for you to tell how it's done.
Got it.
And then, of course, fat provides almost 2.25 times as much energy as the carbohydrates. So you feed a lot less and you get a lot more energy. So you can make your meal size much smaller.
Is it fairly easily digested by a horse?
It is, once the horse gets accustomed to it. Like when we talked about in the beginning, there is fat in a horse's diet naturally. So they have some capacity to digest fat. And then, of course, as with anything, you would introduce it slowly to the diet. And then once the horse is accustomed to it, they digest it very well.
Are there any dangers associated with this feeding? I mean, could you overfeed it?
Well, like anything. I mean, if you overfed fat, you would get some diarrhea. Horses can tolerate up to 20% of the entire diet, of the total diet in fat. That's a lot of fat.
Yeah.
It is a lot of, yeah.
Yeah, that's buckets.
You'd have to really work hard to overfeed it.
Yeah.
Got it.
But yeah, you can. Some of the benefits of fat are that, like we said before, The concentrate portion of the horse's meal can be smaller. You really never want to feed more than 5 pounds per feeding because that's about the capacity of the stomach. So you can feed smaller meals because it's more energy dense. And that lowers the risk, of course, of any digestive upset. Feeds that are high in soluble carbs, which are the starches and sugars, they cause a lot of hormone surges. They burn very quickly. It makes the insulin rise very quickly and drop very quickly. And, if anybody is, if you've ever been hypoglycemic, you know how that feels. When all of a sudden your sugar goes up and it goes down and you feel terrible. Well, fats don't do that. They burn very slow and steady, and they reduce those hormone spikes. So horses that tend to be excitable, sometimes that excitability, like people used to say, oh, corn is a hot feed or oats is a hot feed. It was actually those hormone spikes that cause that excitability, and you don't get that in fat.
Oh, so Karen, what if you have a horse that's a really picky eater? Every horse I've had that's been skinny is typically a picky eater. How do you kind of combat that?
Well, you can use combined products. Like we have a product called Endure Extra, which is a combination of rice bran and flax and some other concentrated fats. And you only have to feed 4 to 8 ounces a day. And we combine that with some pre and probiotics that will help the horse's gut will help their appetite. They'll feel better, so they'll eat more. So that's the type of product that I would recommend if you have a real picky horse. The Equijewel rice brand is very well accepted by horses. It has a kind of nutty flavor to it, and they seem to really like it.
Yeah. And I've had great luck with that Endure Extra. My picky eater, Zoe, loves it. And he's really picky, and he does a really good job. I actually had to call Karen and say, I think I need to back him off, the Endure Extra. And it's been a really, really helpful product for us, especially moving him around and showing he has a tendency to come off feed, and he eats it really, really well. Well, Karen, thank you so much for coming on tonight. This was a great topic, and I can't wait for next month's KPP Supplement Tip of the Month. Karen, how would people find you online and find some more information about just any supplement questions they have?
Well, they can go to kppusa.com, and we also have a Facebook page. So if anybody has a question to ask, they can go on the Facebook page. I monitor that pretty much all the time and ask their questions. Or they could also email us at info@kppusa.com.
And Karen is fantastic. She will answer any question, and I'm sure I've asked some really silly ones, but she is super easy to work with and is so, so good at this. So, Karen, thanks so much for your time, and we will look forward to our tip next month.
Thank you, guys. Have a nice day.
Justin from Total Saddle Fit joined us to talk about some of the products and how he is developing such great products. Well, tonight we are so happy to have Justin himself from Total Saddle Fit for our Total Saddle Fit Tip of the Week. Justin, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me again. Happy to be on.
Well, we always love it when you stop by to chat with us because we always have saddle fitting issues. And I'm so glad that I can call you myself because I always have saddle fitting issues, and you're such a great resource. So tonight we were going to talk to you specifically about the girth, the Stretch Tech girth, and how you developed it, and just start us off on how you went there with that.
Totally. So it's founded in the shoulder relief girth. It does all the same stuff that a shoulder relief girth does. So it redirects the billet line to keep the saddle tree from interfering with the horse's shoulder, gives the horse more elbow clearance from the girth. But there was a few other things that we addressed with it. So basically, it's got this unique, maybe call it weird looking, triangular elastic in the center of the girth. And it's more elastic in the back center of the girth than it is in the front. And that lets it stretch a little bit asymmetrically with a really deliberate intention to allow it to expand and contract with the horse's chest for the expansion and contraction they have while they're breathing. And the asymmetrically sized elastic stretches in more even proportion to their chest over their sternum. So it gives a lighter, like a more delicate contact over the sternum area in general. So that's the main technology performance component of it. And then just for convenience and function, we gave it interchangeable liners. So you can swap between leather or neoprene liners, and they come on and off really easily for washing or changing based on the season or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, we've been using our stretch tech girth in the barn, and we just found it so handy. And just the idea, I mean, it's sort of a, you don't find a lot of innovation in tack. And I mean, we're finding more and more. But where did the concept come from? Because normally the elastic occurs, where you do the billets up to the girth. And what was the idea behind the elastic in the middle?
Well, we basically are obsessed with girths. That is what we do. That's what we're known for. So we spend a lot of time coming up with ideas, looking at horses, seeing how we can make it better. And horses' chests, expand all the way around, basically. But nearly all girths only have elastic at the buckles. And especially if you want a girth to be functional, it has to actually have some ability to hold its shape as well. So we're kind of looking at how can you let a girth expand kind of throughout, but keep its shape for the shoulder relief element of it, to keep the saddle fit benefit. So this is basically what we came up with to address that. And then noticed where a horse or where a girth lies in the horse's girth groove. It doesn't necessarily always sit on what you might call level ground. There's a shape to a horse's body as it curves, as the sternum curves up toward their elbows. So we noticed that shape was changing. So we just affected the elastic, changed the elastic to match that shape more effectively.
So Justin, if you were, because we have both actually, we have the original total saddle fit girth, and then the shoulder relief girth, and then the elastic in the middle. And how do you decide what horses to put what girth on, or how do you decide basically?
That's a good question. So in general, both will work on both horses. It's kind of like just saying, do you want the sort of regular version or the more advanced version? It depends person to person. Now, if you want something that has easier to change liners, for example, then it would be an obvious choice. You go to the stretch tech. But there can be some horses that need a little bit more expansion and contraction in their chest, where they might put on a regular girth, a shoulder relief girth, or otherwise, that they don't necessarily perform as well in. That it's too tight on them. It's too tight across the sternum or something. So the stretch tech can give them that. But it generally, I should say, gives them just another sort of level of comfort, level of performance, so you can know that they have that much extra given the girth, that much extra potential to be performing well. Yeah,
and actually, that's kind of what I decided. My sweet Denali, who is the biggest baby about his girth, and he was so much better with the original shoulder relief girth, but he actually is even better with the stretch tech, because I think that was his issue. He didn't like it kind of feeling confined. And as soon as we put that on him, he's significantly better about being girthy. So that was really cool. I was like, oh my goodness, this really made a big difference for this horse. Like I said, even just putting it on made a big difference for him. So that's what I would say. If somebody was girthy, try it, because it really made a huge difference in him.
Definitely. And, in some of these cases, there is a little bit of a trial component, which is, it's hard to say, without a doubt, which girth one horse will do better in than the other. But we can say that you're going to be generally better off with the stretch tech, with more technology, more potential for performance.
And Justin, I guess the next thing, while we have you on the line here, we wanted to talk about the 6-point saddle pad, because I'm not sure we've really discussed that too much in depth with you. Where was the ideas behind the saddle pad and the development of that?
So it's basically a saddle pad that takes fitting shims, and it has, instead of your average 4 pockets, it has 6 pockets. We come from a saddle fitting background here. So when you flock a saddle, you look at it much more as if there was 6 areas, 3 on each side of the panels, where you flock a saddle. You might flock it in the center if the saddle was bridging. You might flock it toward the rear of the saddle if it's low behind, etc. But we found that the regular 4-pocket fitting pads didn't really address this. They had too much material in some places. They didn't allow the pinpointing. So we basically took what we would do with flocking, built that into a pad, which is 3 fitting pockets per side, so you can dial in the fit way better. It's got way more versatility, and it addresses just more problems, basically. And then the one little addition or extra thing that we did to that is something called Wither Freedom technology. And that is on some of our pads, it comes with an option. You don't have to get it, but it's an option where there's about a 10-inch cutback in the front of the pad to give relief of the horse's withers. So it takes any downward pressure away from the withers. It gives more saddle clearance over the withers. So a horse that is maybe really high withers, sensitive withers, it can help them as well.
And I just had a horse like that, and never had one that had such a problem with the withers. And Justin, I called Justin and said, Justin, what do we do with this? And it was unbelievable, the difference with the clearance with that cutout. It was unbelievable because he literally could not go in a regular saddle pad. So that really made sense. I had never seen that before. So Justin, how you're having a saddle fit problem, how do you decide where to fit the saddle? Does that make sense?
Totally. So usually you can diagnose it in most cases. I mean, if the horse has sore spots, that'll be obviously a good indication. But how the saddle is balanced when a rider's in it. And by the way, there's a saddle fitting manual on how to actually use the pad for the different problems that comes with the pad. So if you are curious about this personally, you can always reference the manual. But basically, you look at how the saddle is balanced for the horse while the rider's in it and address it from there. So, for example, like one case, probably the most common, is a saddle is sitting a little bit low in the front. A rider feels some pressure in the front of the seat by the pommel, maybe the back of the saddle is bouncing. In that case, that's totally indicative of the saddle being too low in the front. So you'd add one shim on each side in the very front of the saddle pad. That'll bring the front of the saddle up a little bit to level out that balance, but it won't affect the center or the rear portion of the saddle because it's only adding the extra shim where it needs it and not filling out anywhere in the mid back or anything like that.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's been fantastic for some of the younger horses who are developing, and I can sort of look at it and adjust it, sort of week to week or every couple of weeks, and as the horse builds his muscle in his back, you sort of start taking the shims out or moving them if the saddle needs balance. So I think that's been the biggest benefit for me because I like to have the older horses when they are developed to have their saddles fit to them, and so but the pad is a great sort of in between. If your horse is developing as you ride him, I think it's been really awesome. What other feedback and uses have people been using this pad for?
Well, there's all kinds of uses, but let me real quick comment on what you just said, which is, these pads are great for in-between adjustments. It's like kind of what you're saying. So definitely if you have access to a saddle fitter and you use one regularly, that's still great. But these kinds of pads can sort of bridge the gap from one adjustment to the other and make sure the saddle's always fitting how it should, as opposed to, having a saddle fit by a saddle fitter and then it kind of sort of declining over time. And then 9 months later, the saddle fitter comes back and it's great for a few months and then it kind of starts breaking down. This will let you tailor fit it, month over month and get you a much more consistent fit.
Well, and that makes sense because we have that problem a lot here. It's not a big deal if you're in Florida or you're in an area where there are saddle fitters all the time. But if, I have a lot of students or myself, we'll go for a period of time where we don't have anybody, and that's tricky. So I think that is it's just good to have one of these pads in the barn, especially if you're a trainer. You should just have one because it is something that you can just pull out and get really good resources and access on how to use it, and it can fit a lot of problems. So it's just one of those pads that I think everybody should own for sure.
Well, thank you, Reese. You're a very good poster child for the pad and the girth, so I'm very thrilled that it's working out so well for you.
But we really use the products, and like you said, that's really important for us because the other thing I like about the girth, and this is probably not the way you're supposed to do it, but when in the summer, everybody gets really hot and sweaty here, and we just hose the girths off, and they've held up great. And I'm not sure we're supposed to be doing that, but we do it. And it's
hit it with a hose, right?
Yeah, I kind of do. I'm not going to lie, especially the Stretch Tech with the neoprene. You can just, and that's way easier because girths and stuff just get gross. I mean, anywhere it's where they're sweating and getting hot. I'm probably not cleaning the girth appropriately, but it seems to be working very well for us.
I will say that you won't find that cleaning description on our website. That's not exactly how we recommend it.
No. How would you
But
recommend
if
to
it works,
clean
it works.
since we've got you on the line?
Just, besides a hose or a power washer, I would just, this is pretty basic, like any other letter. Keep it clean, damp cloth, condition it, once or twice a month. You really don't need to do much. The letter's actually really, really sealed, which is probably why it puts up with your hosing off without too much hassle. So cleaning is not hard.
No, it's not hard, and it's great. And a lot of other girths are not as
Forgiving.
Forgiving, that's a better word. So thank you, Justin, for giving us a forgiving girth that we can easily clean inappropriately. But but Justin, thank you. You have the best products, and we really do enjoy. We use them. Philip and I use them every day. We're not just kidding around. And we both run busy training barns, and all the products are great. And Justin's super easy to work with and lots of fun, and can answer all the questions, and certainly does for us as well, because we all run into them. So Justin, thank you so much for coming on. How can our listeners find you online?
Go to totalsaddlefit.com. You can find everything you need there. If you have saddle fit questions, just email us off the website. Whether you buy stuff from us or not, we're happy to help you with saddle fit problems. Totalsaddlefit.com. That's where we're at.
Great. Thanks, Justin. We can't wait to have you on again.
Thanks a lot, guys. Have a great one.
Well, Phil, that was an awesome show, and we know we have a couple listener questions to get to. We will get to them. We've had a busy couple weeks, so we will get to those when we get back in a couple weeks. No problem. Keep them coming. We always love listener feedback and questions, and we will take care of those. So, Phil, I'm going to miss you, but I'm sure I'll talk to everybody, and you can find our show notes and links to today's guests on our website, dressageradio.com. Like us on Facebook, just search Dressage Radio Show. Follow us on Twitter at Horse Radio. My website is maplecrestfarmky.com, and my email is reese@horseradionetwork.com.
The best way to find me is on Facebook, or my email is at philip@horseradionetwork.com. I'd like to thank our sponsors for allowing us to put on a good show. And don't forget to check out all the other shows on the Horse Radio Network at horseradionetwork.com.
Everybody, keep your heels down and your shoulders back, and we'll talk to you next week.